Hello, I'm the Dark Master, and welcome back to the Kirby Right Back at Ya Retrospective. In today's installment, we shall be covering episode 44, War of the Woods, or as it's known in the Japanese original, Wispy Woods Friend Acor. This episode was released originally in Japan as the 44th episode on August 10th, 2002, whereas in the English dub, it was released on April 12th, 2003 as the 41st episode. This was likely due to changes in the release dates of other episodes as opposed to anything wrong with this episode itself. The English name is a reference to the famous and highly influential 1897 science fiction story by English author Herbert George Wells, known as War of the Worlds, which I highly recommend you read as it's an excellent book, though admittedly it doesn't have much to do with this episode at all. But enough of this pre-release trivia. Let us start with the episode's plot. The episode opens during the night to a distinctive area referred to as the Eastern Forest, which is adjacent to Wispy Woods, but much older, darker, and more biologically diverse. It's an interesting location that is sadly not really explored a lot after this specific episode, which is a darn shame because I think it had a lot of potential. We see King Dedede and Escargoon snooping around the area. They come to an extremely old and gnarled oak tree that we shall later learn is Acor. Since he's appearing now and it's the closest thing to a character slash monster of the week, let's talk about him now. In the Japanese original, he's voiced by noted voice actor Nobuo Tobita, who is quite prolific in this series, voicing Amon from the previous episode. The English voice actor, however, is sadly uncredited and unknown, though they do a decent job, though admittedly Acor doesn't say much. In terms of appearance, he is an oak tree that is far more realistic than most other entities in the Kirby universe that are based off trees, with heavily baggy eyes and a very suggestively shaped hollow. He's a fine concept, but even though the voice acting for what it is decent, he's more of a plot object than an active character. I mean, he isn't even awake until the very end of the episode, which, sorry to spoil it to you, but, I mean, seriously, he's just not really much of a character. And his name is a pun on acorn, which is kind of funny, though. So I guess all is forgiven. Dedede and the snail reach Acor. He goes to cut down the tree, and we see the first change between versions here. In the Japanese original, he pulls out a regular chainsaw in CGI. 4Kids, seemingly seeking to reduce violence in their TV shows, airbrushed it so that it looks more like a laser, which is unironically awesome and is probably more violent than a regular chainsaw. I mean, seriously, this is a laser chainsaw. I mean, imagine how that would look, honestly. It's just one of those rare instances where the changes done by 4Kids was honestly in such a backwards manner that it actually looped back around into being awesome. And I normally don't praise, censorship, but in this case, it actually made the episode more memorable. This wasn't the first time this had happened. In a previous episode that I reviewed, episode 5, Beware Wispy Woods, which I suggest you go watch, it happened there too. And honestly, I hope that the laser chainsaw can be used by King Dedede in future games. Because honestly, it's one of the few changes that 4Kids made that was unambiguously an improvement on the Japanese original. The king is about to cut Acor down, but is stopped by a blueberry thrown at him into his eyes. Escargoon also gets hit before the king angrily demands an answer onto what exactly is going on. Then we see that Acor has a group of animals that serve as protectors to him. First, there is a generic animal referred to as the monkey and the woodpecker, though it does get a name, Kitsue. Kind of odd they gave him a name since he has absolutely no character at all and is basically on the same level as the monkey and the similarly unimportant squirrel, which is purple. These really aren't that much of note, but the remaining creatures are far more noteworthy. First, we got Rick the Hamster, who was from Kirby's Dream Land 2 and had cameoed in several previous episodes. He has a gnarly Australian accent in the English dub, thanks to Andrew Rannells, who is known for the 2011 Broadway musical, The Book of Mormon. Sadly, the Japanese voice actress, Makiko Ohomoto, while doing a fine enough job, just doesn't have the same impact on me, though that might be because I speak English and not Japanese. Then we see Pawn and Con, which are a duo of a fox and a raccoon, which appeared as a boss fight, first in Kirby's Dream Land 3 in 1997. They were a decent fight, and later, after a few cameos, would make a return as an actual boss fight in Kirby's Star Allies, which was neat. They're a nice little cameo, and they have some decent voice acting by people who are sadly unnamed. As far as the next pair of creatures, they are an adult and young boar, which is a reference to Nroff and Nelly, which were a pair of bosses that appeared in Kirby's Dream Land 2. Sadly, they don't really speak and frankly haven't really returned as actual bosses in the series proper. Interestingly, the Japanese original, there is a really nice rearrangement of Bubbly Clouds theme, which is from the original Kirby's Dream Land, and it sounds nice here, but was sadly replaced in the English dub with a honestly far more generic musical tone. The king are very shocked by these guys' sudden appearance as Rick tells them to attack as they begin beating up the pair of deforesting delinquents before they are forced to run off defeated. We then see a lineup of the creatures and a shot of Acor before the jazzy intro plays. After this jazzy intro, we cut to the grove where Wispy Wood stands. He greets the visiting Kirby, Tough, Spikehead, Iroh, and Honey, alongside that terrible bird Takori. Tough asks Wispy Woods how everything is going. The great tree says the forests are all healthy, with Takori saying in his smug, condescending tone that he was a chaperone for the kids, showing them how to get here, which is just so smug and arrogant. Wispy Woods greets them and welcomes them by giving apples. Kirby is happy at the free lunch, though Takori is unjustifiably annoyed. We see Spikehead and Honey are seen trying the apples and declaring them delicious. Tough brags about telling them that this would be the case. In the Japanese original, there is an additional scene in which Iroh also tastes the delicious apples. This scene was supposedly cut for time restraints. Personally, I thought it was a shame because it was a neat little scene, though honestly not much was lost as it was pretty irrelevant to the overall episode's plot. Kirby inhales an apple as Tough thanks Wispy and asks if there is anything they can do to make it up to him. To which Wispy says that he has a task that they could help him with, to which Tuft eagerly agrees. Wispy says his friend Acor, which lives far away in a forest to the east, is a far wiser and older tree and is in some sort of danger, though he's uncertain of the exact nature of the danger due to being, well, a stationary tree. He then says that Acor is 800 years old, which astounds everyone present. To put things in perspective regarding Acorn's age, he would have been born, assuming a consistent timeline with Earth, in the year 1222, the same year Hungary issued the Golden Bull, which was similar to the Magna Carta, which limited the power of the monarchy, and the same year that the Gurid dynasty was destroyed by Genghis Khan's son, Ogadai Khan. Also, as odd as this may seem, there's actually a number of trees that are older than Acor, often surpassing 1,000 years, like Methuselah, which is a bristlecone pine that is 4,854 years old. That is absolutely ancient. Resuming with the plot, Takori is not impressed at this impressive age and says it's easy for a tree to live so long because all they do is stand around. However, justifiably, this petulance angers Wispy Woods, who hits him in the head with an apple, hopefully giving him a concussion before explaining how trees help everyone by producing oxygen, cleaning water, and generating soil. Kirby eats another apple as we cut to Castle Dedede. We see Escargoon looking through a pair of binoculars, complaining about the previous night's failure to do what they were attempting. The king, whose arm is in a sling, bemoans about how much he wants to cut down the forest so he can build his country club. Escargoon bemoans Wispy Wood's influence in preventing them from doing so, and then spies the kids heading off into the eastern woods. We cut to them following Takori to the area. Honey points out how the heavy cloud cover is concerning, to which Spikehead says his dad warned him of a coming storm. This will become relevant later, trust me. We cut to Dedede and Escargoon, who decide to follow after the kids with a small spy drone referred to as a grasshopper eavesdropper, which is modeled after, well, a grasshopper. The trail grows dark as the canopy grows thick as we see the group walking down the path. Takori, however, hears something and cruelly tells the kids to be quiet as he hears something. As we come to hear the sound of running water, which indicates a waterfall. Takori, in a rare bout of genius, says that Acor was near a waterfall, which indicates if they approach this sound, they'll find the tree. They come eventually to a crater in which Acor lives, which has a small waterfall nearby. The group look up upon the old tree. Spikehead says he looks sick, to which Tuff sardonically asks what would they look like if they were 800 years old, while Takori balks at the concept of living to be that age. But before the complaining can continue, Tuff tells them all to hide when he hears something coming out of the tree. Rick and the other creatures emerge from the tree, where they look around after hearing the kids walking nearby. Pond says he didn't hear anything, while the squirrel said that Rick must have imagined it. But they are cut off by Kitsu, who begins peckering Acor's side. Rick tells him to cut it out, yet the woodpecker ignores him until his beak gets stuck in a hollow area of the tree. Pond and Con laugh at him until he gets unstuck, which causes him to fall onto the ground and annoy Ruff, who chases after the woodpecker and accidentally charges right into Pon and Con, knocking them off base. Honey says that they must live there, and the group agree to this and come to the belief that the presence of these animals was causing actions that harmed Acor. And led by Tough, they decide to confront the animals. This causes the animals to stop their infighting, as Rick the hamster recognizes Kirby and Tough. Rick asks what the city dwellers are doing out here, to which Tough explains that they were sent here by Wispy Woods and says that Acorn is in danger, which confuses him before Tough declares that the animals are the cause of Acorn's danger, which shocks them all. Pon and Con say they're wrong and that Acorn wants them around and that they're old friends of his. Tough expressed skepticism, pointing out all the holes Acorn has. Rick says the holes are natural, and Pon says that they'd never hurt their friend, while Con adds on saying they protect him from trouble, with Rick saying that Acorn invited them to live here. Tough demands to hear what Acor has to say himself on the matter, and Rick, however, tries to explain that Acor has been asleep for the past 5 years and might not wake up again for some time. Tough, however, doesn't believe him and says they're squatters that must be kicked out. The woodpecker begins the conflict, attacking Tough and the others. The kids try to retreat but are struck by Ruff and Nellie. Takori tries to attack Pon and Con but is pathetically knocked out by some berries. The monkey swings into Iroh, sending him flying, while Kirby is cornered by Ruff and Nellie and cause him to be sent flying into the air when they hit him. Tough and Spikehead try to hide in some tall grass, but get hit by the falling Kirby. Spikehead suggests they leave, but Tough reminds them of their promise to save Acor to Wispy Woods. Tough pulls out a sling shot and hits Pon, Con, and Rick. The hamster then picks up a stone and throws it at the group of city dwellers. Kirby watches this all, confused, before turning around and seeing just a watermelon in the forest. In the Japanese original, he says the Japanese word for watermelon. Luckily, 4Kids removed this, and it's actually a relatively decent change. The less Kirby talks, the better, as it just comes off as weird. Sadly, it is revealed to be a trap set up by Rick, who gloats over Kirby's foolish behavior at getting tricked by such an easy trap. Rick, however, sees a large slice of cheese, and then promptly goes over to try it, but is caught by a trap set up by Tough, who laughs at Rick for his stupidity at falling for the exact same type of trap he caught Kirby with earlier. Tough's mockery is cut short when he gets hit in the head by another animal's stone toss. Meanwhile, Rick and Kirby engage in happy slaps, which is relatively brief and eventually causes Kirby's rope to break, which causes the poor pink puffball to fall onto Ruff, who makes him go hog wild as he bumps into Acor with brute force. This awakens Ku, who is an animal friend from Kirby's Dream Land 2 and appeared alongside Rick and Kine. In the anime, he is voiced by Eric Stewart, who does a fine enough job of giving the feeling of a wise owl, though the Japanese original voice by Yuko Nikizutani was slightly more emotive and honestly a little bit better. Resuming with the plot, we see Ku react with shock at seeing the kids fighting the animals, and in a massive concern, flies off. Meanwhile, Dedede and Escargoon watch them from the screen in their limousine. Escargoon comments on this, and the king chuckles about the golden opportunity that will happen once the kids chase off the animals. Meanwhile, we cut back to Castle Dedede, where we see Ku, who must have flown extremely fast to get there, informing Tiff of what exactly is going on in the forest. She is shocked at her brother's behavior, to which Ku, with which has to be one of the most smug facial expressions in the entire show, offers to show her where this is all taking place. We cut back to the eastern forest where we see Rick and the other creatures looking around Acor, with Rick Pon Khan explaining how they must have given up as the kids are no longer there. But suddenly a cloud of smoke appears. This burns the animals' lungs and forces them out of the tree, and they flee into the forest. It is revealed, however, to have been the work of Tuff and the kids. Feeling victorious of having chased out the animals, they go over to Acorn and tell him what they have done. However, the ancient tree is revealed to still be asleep, having slept through the entire conflict. Iroh is amazed that he slept through all of the conflict's noise. Takori flies up and pecks at the tree's eyes to no avail. Tuff comments on how he doesn't even know that they helped him. To which Spycat says that he won't say thank you, which Honey says that is rude. However, Tuff, in a surprisingly mature manner, said that it doesn't matter if they get thanks, as Wispy Woods will be happy since they helped his old tree friend. They turn to leave, however, along the path, they are confronted by Tiff. Tuff asks why she is so upset, to which Tiff explains it was because they were fighting. Ira says they were just helping Acor as Wispy asked for their help. Tiff expresses her doubt on whether they were expressly told that before saying those animals help the tree, which shocks the kids. Ku then explains that they are all allowed to live in the tree and help Acor by eating harmful insects and even enriching the soil due to their, droppings. Tiff then concludes this environmental lecture by telling them how they messed up by kicking all those animals out. Tuff sits down, dejected by his mistaken actions, and says he only wanted to help. The foul boy Takori lectures upon the boy by saying his actions have left the tree in a worse shape than before, only increasing the boy's gloom. Ku thankfully calls out Takori's hypocrisy as he too participated in the gruesome act, which causes the bird to hide his face in justifiable shame. Tiff says that Wispy's concerns must be the result of someone else threatening Acor. Tuff instantly, justifiably, thinks of King Dedede as the group rushes back to Acor. King Dedede pulls out his laser chainsaw as Escargoon encourages him to cut the old tree down. The king wastes time crying over his dream about to come true, while Escargoon encourages him to hurry up before something happens. Yet, due to him wasting time, he gets caught by Tuff, who calls out his name and tells him to stop, and then hits him with a rock, which causes the king to fall down, and he almost cuts his own head off with the laser chainsaw. The kids arrive, which causes the cowardly Escargoon to say they're outnumbered. But the king, not scared of the kids, grabs his laser chainsaw, presumably to kill them Leatherface style. But Tiff tells Kirby to suck it up, which Kirby does so, inhaling the chainsaw from Dedede's hands to become... Ah, Cutter Kirby, last seen in a previous episode, surprisingly also with Wispy Woods, that being episode 27, The Flower Plot, which I recommend you go watch as it was a good review of a good episode. First appearing in Kirby's adventure, the Cutter ability got its hat first in Kirby Superstar, which is a reference to Ariel Norimaki from Dr. Slump, which was a manga made by Akira Toriyama, who would later go on to make the much more well-known Dragon Ball series. The anime saw the ability translate extremely well into the medium. I really don't have any complaints design-wise or its abilities. The kids cheer Kirby on, but we see that the king has taken to his limousine and, using a rocket launcher, fired a large rocket towards Kirby. The pink puffball easily dodges this before the king, like a coward, retreats. Kirby throws his blade. The king grabs the reel from Escargoon and barely dodges it. With Kirby, however, he doesn't let up and throws the blade again. In the Japanese original, he yells out, "Cutter beam!" Honestly, it's good they removed this, as honestly, as I stated before, Kirby talking just comes off as weird, and frankly, the less he talks, the better. The king, not noticing it, arrogantly laughs that Kirby missed, but after some punny dialogue from both him and Escargoon, it is revealed that his limousine was cut clean in half. Instead of exploding or falling to either side, both halves are sent down different roads as we see the kids congratulating Kirby on his success at driving away the petty tyrant. Then, with the bird to Corey pointing out how Acor is still sleeping, which is astounding, while Tiff thanks Kirby for all that he did. However, it begins to rain as a strong storm begins. Iroh asks if Kirby can stop the storm, but Tiff points out that not even a great Star Warrior can beat Mother Nature itself, and that this storm must have been what Wispy Woods was concerned about. Tough bemoans about how they can't really do anything to help Acor, who begins shaking in the strong wind. However, we then see that the animals have returned with ropes and logs, and that they have a plan to help Acor. Under Tiff's leadership, she and the others help the animals to brace Acor for the coming storm, with even the wretched Takori helping. The winds grow fierce as the group struggle against the mighty breeze, with the lazy bird Takori complaining before Tiff tells him to keep helping. Rick rallies the animals to protect their home. Meanwhile, the camera pans up to a nearby cliff, as we see King Dedede and Escargoon have not quite given up yet. The king laughs at the kids for thinking that they had given up when they had actually strategically retreated. Escargoon uses his controller to cause the grasshopper eavesdropper drone to fly into the waterfall and explode, releasing a massive flood upon the area. Tuff asks his sister what to do, and she tells him to hold on, but the floodwaters eventually overwhelm the entire group, as we see all of them washing away towards presumably a watery grave. The king laughs at this as we see the floodwaters causing a lot of damage, even pushing Acor away. The king laughs at his achievement, but their foul joy is cut short when it's revealed that the flooding has stranded both him and Escargoon on a flimsy piece of rock, before the flood washes them away in the exact same manner that the kids and animals were, supposedly killing them. And what is the final change between versions? After this, in the Japanese original, there are several scenes of the damp forest after the storm finished, with a leaf having a water droplet fall off into a puddle. It's a rather calming scene, but it doesn't really add that much. 4Kids removed it, likely to better fit within the time slots of the US, and honestly, not much was lost. We cut to the king, who gets hit in the head by an apple and is awoken as such. He and Escargoon look around confused as they see that not only is the area completely healed from the flood, but the old tree Acor is still standing in the very same spot that it was there before the flood, which is odd since we saw the flood carrying it away. Tiff and Tuff then explain, coming out of the woodwork, that they were able to replant Acor and restore most of the forest back to its previous shape thanks to Wispy's apples. The king, however, remains obstinate and says he and Escargoon will still clobber them all, refusing to concede that he's lost. But Escargoon chickens out and runs away, with Dedede chasing after him as the two fools CGI drift away. The group laugh at their failure, and finally, Acor awakens and greets them all, though he doesn't know some of them. Tuff says hello, and Acor explains that he's been having a strange dream in which Wispy Woods, concerned about him, sent some friends over to help him, which eerily mirrors what happened in this very episode. This causes more laughter as the episode closes on Kirby sucking up an apple. Now that we've finished with the episode's plot, let us discuss the episode's positives, negatives, and my final thoughts on the episode as a whole. Firstly, I found that the episode's message was very well done. While yes, previous episodes as well as future ones have featured environmentalism, this episode manages to do so in another quite unique manner, highlighting the interconnectedness of nature and a warning against making rash decisions in the belief that it will improve anything based on little evidence. I also liked how the episode sort of touched on squatters' rights and that squatters aren't necessarily bad people. That's a very interesting idea, and I wish they did more with it. I also thought that Rick and Koo were well implemented. Despite not being much in the episode, they make up for it by being well implemented. All of the cameos were nice, though honestly they weren't much more than that. I can't really compliment them much more than that. I also thought that Tuff was utilized well, as he made a promise and kept it, which is far more mature than he is in other episodes. It also utilized Dedede well, even though I question why he decides to not utilize his army of Waddle Dees like at all in his numerous schemes to get rid of Wispy. Though it was interesting to see that he tried from a different approach, given that he realized that he couldn't beat Wispy, so decided to just go after an easier target. Heck, he even tries to kill the kid with his laser chainsaw, which is quite a bit more active than he normally is in the series. This episode also marked the final appearance of Cutter Kirby, and while I do think Cutter Kirby was well utilized in the anime, I would also say that it really wasn't the greatest send-off. I wouldn't say it's a negative because it doesn't harm the episode as a whole, nor was it really done that awfully, but on the grand scheme of things, it was kinda middling, to be honest. In terms of negatives, if you expect me to complain about the changes between versions, they are actually quite minimal. In some cases, 4Kids, in has to be a broken clock instance, actually made some improvements, like the King's laser chainsaw and removing Kirby's speech. I will say some of the cut scenes were nice and could have easily been added without really harming the flow of the episode, but the biggest issue isn't in fact with any of the changes. Rather, it has to do with Tiff herself and how she was implemented in the episode. Now, a lot of people dislike Tiff on a fundamental level and find her extremely annoying across the entire series. And in most episodes, I don't really think that's the case, and in fact, I greatly enjoy her, and I wish she would make a cameo appearance in one of the video games. However, I will say that out of all the episodes I have so far covered for this retrospective, this is the one in which she seems the most just tacked on. I mean, frankly, I think it would have been a lot more interesting if they cut her entirely and had maybe like Koo confront Tuff and explain what he did was wrong, which would encourage him to grow as a character and do the right thing. I mean, seriously, you could have done that anyway. You could have had it that Koo was in the nearby forest and he sees his friends, but, at that point, I'm just doing a fan fiction, and, well, I don't really want to waste time doing that. It's just a real shame because I think her presence in this episode wasn't handled the best, in all honesty. But overall, this was a good episode that had a bunch of nice cameos with some good messaging and wasn't really butchered that much in translation from Japanese to English. While it does have one minor flaw, Despite that, I would highly recommend watching it, and definitely worth a watch. I'm Darkmaster, and join me next time on the Kirby Right Back at Ya Retrospective, and have a good day.